have you.
I have been given the distinct honor of being able to say a little bit about the book before our distinguished poet reads from it tonight. And I've got to tell you that I have admired this woman for a very long while. I've seen her plays, I've seen her poetry, and I had seen segments of a novel that she was in the process of writing. I had also seen some of these beautiful paintings that captured so much of what it means to be a creative woman, especially from our own Mexicano culture. But when she called me a couple of years ago and said she had something she wanted me to read, I thought, wow, well, she's finished the novel, or she's got another play or something. And she sent me a manuscript of poetry with a very intriguing title, The Ones Santana Sold. It captured something right there, right at the title she had me. Because often we have that experience of feeling, especially here on the border, like maybe we're not fully claimed by either side, that we're considered foreigners here and foreigners there, and that it all came down to some fluke of history, some treaty, some contract that sold us off. So I began to read the book with great anticipation, and it was beautiful. It captured all of those sights and sounds and smells that are so much a part of our Mexican-American experience, of our Tejano experience, of our duality, our foot on both sides of the border. It captured the aromas of our food and our flowers and even our emotions. It captured the sounds of our language entre idiomas, our Spanglish, Tex-Mex, half an English, half a Spanish line. But it also captured some of the experiences we all identified with growing up in this country, but with a strong influence from the country 2 minutes away. When she talked about a first kiss, a river of lost dreams, when she talked about the use of Spanglish, when she talked about Marilyn Monroe or Elvis Presley, we were there in the lines. We were identifying and feeling it. I thought, this is great. This really captures something that has not been put on paper in quite this way. But there was also a freshness. There was something there that was not familiar to me. There was something there that took us far away, that took us deep into Mexico, that took us into different experiences from what many of us have had. Some of them were painful portraits. They were all beautiful portraits of human situations, evil, good, blessings, love, disappointment. Even the cruelty between human beings was captured in her lines. But there was also something else. And it was that vision that something could be different, that the world could be different. This is the way the world is. But there's a vision and a possibility and a dream for something more. So the manuscript had me. She sent it off. And she called me back a while later and said, I'm going to give up. I just don't think this is going to get published. And I said, well, you know, the hardest thing to publish is poetry. The absolutely worst thing you can send out to have somebody want to publish as a book is poetry. In this country, it's just not very easy to get poetry published. I said, just try a couple more. And I think the very next one she sent it to grabbed it immediately and said, yes, we want to publish this. So you understand why this is an honor for me to even be able to talk a little bit about this book. There's a craft in these poems. As you go through these lines, you will see things that are told, that are very complicated situations of life, but that are told in the very simple poetic form, that are brought together so that you lose yourself in the senses. You forget about understanding, you forget about thinking, you forget about analyzing, you forget about the step-to-step of prose, and you immerse yourself in poetry as if it were a garden full of flowers, full of different fragrances, full of different experiences. I want to read just a little piece of the introduction which I wrote for this book. And it says, Raquel Valle Senties brings to life the bilingual, bicultural world of Laredo, Texas, with all of its binational contradictions, its Washington and Juarez icons, and its street lore of coyotes and comehombres, with a bald-eyed honesty and the freshness of morning gossip. Valle Senties blows the breath of life and the blood of reality into both world-famous celebrities and the unknown, homeless, both the impassioned adolescents and the scarred veteranos peering warily over the edge of life. As counterpoint to the dusty heat of Laredo's small town streets, the poet pulls us deep into a fragrant indigenous Mexico with all of its unadorned beauty and undisguised tragedies. She takes us so effectively that the juice of the pineapple drips down our chins as we smell café de olla and pork sizzling in oil and hear the hammock creaking under our own weight. We become captive witnesses to the evils of unchecked power, and our souls are chilled as tourists with no ethical boundaries feed their appetites with innocent pre-adolescence. The shudders and the sabores mark themselves permanently on our souls. These poems tour us through the dreams and disasters of a woman's life, from the deep, hollow pain of miscarriage and the assassination of John F. Kennedy in Day of the Dead, to the memories and loss of dignity that haunts the moment of truth in the Plaza de Toros. One of the most touching of all the poems in this very moving collection, The Martyrs of Juarez, becomes both requiem and resurrection for the young women victims of the series of unsolved murders in Juarez, Mexico. But it's the title poem, the one Santa Ana soul, that clinches the deal, that grabs us at the heart. It tells simply and unsentimentally our collective history as residents of one country and descendants of another, a matter-of-fact litany of our experiences as Mexican Americans and Mexicans in the U.S. It exposes the desprecio with which human beings can be treated for political and monetary reasons, and echoes an unspoken indictment of the injustices of those treated as spoils of war, collateral damage, and irrelevant natives of the land. All in all, the collection paints a clear and vibrant portrait of an experience rarely explored in mainstream American literature. Valle Senties renders a coup de grace that should earn her a vuelta around the bull ring, a tail, and most importantly, an ear. We are here to take part in a reading from a most significant volume, I think the most significant volume of poetry that I have seen out in this past year. So I turn it over to Raquel Valle Senties. Muchas gracias.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I would like to thank God for his never-ending grace, mercy, and provision throughout my life. Next, I would like to thank my dear friend, Dr. Ray Keck, who couldn't be here because he's sick. And I'm very much missing him because he's a very good friend, and I wanted him to be here, but that's the way things happen. And TAMIU for hosting and promoting my reading and book signing, and for his staunch support of my work. My heartfelt appreciation to Dr. Keck's staff, Kimberly Thomas and Conchita Hickey, who helped make this event possible. To my comadre, Dr. Carmen Tafoya, former poet laureate of San Antonio, with whom I have walked the literary path for many years. My gratitude for her friendship, for her advice, for always being there when I needed her, and especially for writing the introduction to my book and taking the time from a heavy schedule to come to Laredo to present my book to you. To all my friends and family who took the time to attend this presentation, to be with me on this very important day. And last, and definitely not least, to my astoundingly supportive son, Juan Manuel, who for years has been at my side at every poetry reading, conference, play production, art show, in and out of Laredo and even out of state. It may be a cliche, but I really couldn't have done it without you. Now, I myself don't like to applaud after every poem. I can't stand it. So you all can wait until the end, until I finish reading, and then applaud if you still feel like applauding. Growing up in Laredo, Chicana, Pocha, Tex-Mex, Mexican-American, Hispanic, so many labels. Which one should I use? They're all the same to me. Yo nací en el border, en Laredo, as a matter of fact. Había pocos gringos. They were a minority. Hasta la fecha, they still are. Nadie tenía labels, or I was unaware of them. We were all Americans, unos güeros, otros morenos, y crecí talking like this. El get-together ya empezó. Los guys ya están llegando. Préstame tu lipstick, el fire and ice que está bien rojo. Is my crinolina hanging out? ¿Qué va? You look bien padre. Me aprieta mucho el Mary Widow. I think I'll take it off. No, huerca, te hace ver muy sexy. On Sundays íbamos a morning mass. No había en la tarde, mucho menos on Saturday que te valiera for Sunday. A la 1 we'd go al centro a ver the latest movie. Al Tivoli o al Rialto. Al Plaza o al Royal. Después al City Drug. A flirtear con los huercos. Comer french fries con gravy, tomar un cherry coke, pasar ahí la tarde. El hangout de los gringos era el Central Drug. We never went there. Discrimination, I suppose, but of our own accord. The guys would whisper. The guys would go al otro lado, whisper de Conchita's place. We were dying to ask about it, but nadie se atrevía. Let's go and eat cabrito con frijoles bien borrachos. There was no such thing as nachos, patos, or burritos. If you asked for a mariachi, you got a band cantando rancheras. En St. Angela's Hall, debajo del eagle eye de la Gerarda y la Gabriela, bailábamos cheek to cheek to the tunes of Joni James and Nat King Cole. Echábamos estilo con el clásico danzón y el mambo número 5. Growing up en ese tiempo fue una cosa bien bonita, without having all those labels. Para complicar más las cosas. First kiss. At 16, I strolled with him around Tampico's Plaza de Armas on a water-heavy night. Orlando, a walking cliché, tall, dark, handsome in navy whites, spoke Portuguese. I didn't. Our eyes rolled, eyebrows rose, and hands flew like birds in the feathery night as we struggled to get acquainted. His perfect teeth shone like white mosaic tiles against skin weathered by the sun and sea. Flecks of gold shimmered in his brown eyes as they clung to mine. Fireflies tied to strings sparkled on the necks of the local señoritas. We sauntered to the shadowed embrace of the cathedral's arches. His lips, sweet as a ripe fig, pressed mine. From the plaza came the faint sound of the harp's hummingbird rhythms. It filtered through my pores like a movie soundtrack, and I, the heroine, waited for his arms to cradle my body. When they didn't, I asked why. Because I want to kiss you with my heart. Pueblerina, small town woman. What do I know of cities like San Francisco, where a breeze chills the July air as I brush past people walking the streets? Alcatraz, a malignant sore, looms across the moonlit bay while I eat clam chowder in a bread bowl at Fisherman's Wharf. What do I know of people I would like to know, will never know, with skin the color of eggplant, of burnt sugar, of té de manzanilla, of people with hooded eyes, hair straight as the road from Saltillo to Matehuala, and black and shiny as an obsidian arrowhead, of girls, blonde, woolly hair and cornrow braids, stud zirconias in their noses, of guys in Crayola-colored mohawks. I grew up in a slumbering border town where girls in ponytails and poodle skirts and guys in cuffed jeans and ducktail haircuts danced on moonlit patios to romantic tunes from a record player, where downtown was alive with shoppers in and out of Richter's El Precio Fijo, with a smell of oiled wood floors and classic clothes on chrome racks, where our Charles El Nuevo Mundo had the only escalator in town, and black-haired Mary Coleman modeled designer gowns and hats like my green-eyed Aunt Rebecca did in the roaring 20s, where rainbow-colored silhouettes beamed at us from the brightly lit displays of El Sol del Oriente shoe store, where the Southland Cafe catered to the locals and the Laredo Apaches in the baseball season, where you could safely window shop at night and only the county jail had bars on its windows, where nights, hushed and still as an empty church, bordered on boredom. Our town is now a city waking from its slumber, where drive-by shootings rock the night with AK-47s, where a love-struck boy kills his girl inside a school restroom, where tattoos, gangs, and Satanism flourish like weeds in our St. Augustine grass, where the spirits of murdered people cry out for justice, where the Rio Grande water reeks like an open drain when you open the faucet, where my world has gone the way of the dinosaurs. Tour into dark waters. Turquoise water laps against the boat as tourists board for a cruise of Acapulco Bay. 3 middle-aged men and a little girl join the crowd. She stands out from the other children, a seashell among clams. Charcoal hair, high cheekbones, small nose. Her tan skin glows against the blue bikini. A family outing, I assume. The red-haired man with a walrus mustache picks her up, sets her on his lap. He hugs her, strokes her back, her slender thighs, and passes her to his friend with the pelican legs, as he dances with her to the tune of En el mar la vida es más sabrosa. The girl, fragile as an orchid, clings to his body, pale and spongy like a jellyfish. She slips from the circle of his arms, her round, tawny eyes, too old for her face, meet mine. She shrugs and gazes out to sea. Stepping ashore, the skinny man in a blonde ponytail lifts the child over his shoulder and carries her like booty down the gangplank. Her face, reflected in the shifting darks and lights of the water, distorted like a Dali painting. River of lost dreams. Mi Rio Grande, newborn river of my sunrises, who quenched the thirst of Lipan Apaches and Kickapoo, who witnessed my birth, rushes from the bowels of the Ochre Mountain, bursts down its craggy face, mists the air with froth, lulls the night with mud-churned, whispered chants. Ay, mi rio, tan grande y tan bravo, where empty bottles litter dusty trails, where a jabalí chews a sun-faded tennis shoe as a possum noses a Fritos bag, where hot, dry winds bend buffalo grass and tall cane, where cubrevientos cool their leaves in your leaden waters. Mi Rio Bravo, river of my sunsets, reeks, festers, and snakes silently across the sun-baked earth. Narcos clash with La Migra among the cenizos, nopales, and mesquites, as mojados like frightened deer run into the brush. Screeching grackles tip their black heads skyward. Mi Rio Grande crawls towards the Gulf with dreams bound by nightmares for those bloated, bodies shrouded in dark weeds like mummies. The one Santana sold. I don't know if all of you have heard that phrase, you're the one Santana sold. But when I was in Veracruz, the people over there would say in a despective tone, you people are the ones Santana sold. So from that came this poem. We are those who fled the land of our birth, those who built the great pyramids, mute witnesses of Cortez's destruction, those who invented the Aztec calendar, those who leave our mothers, our wives, our children, because our country, rich in oil, can't feed us. We are the wetbacks that cross the Rio Bravo, the brave ones that cross the desert, that drown, that die of thirst, that are killed by vigilantes, border guards, or coyotes. Those who passively conquer the most powerful nation in the world, taking back what once belonged to Mexico. We are the traders, the starving Indians, the pochos, the Chicanos. We are the ones Santana sold. Xochitl, purple shades and lavender mists, and lavender tints, an amethyst, a rainbow, a black leopard, graceful as a flamenco dancer, amber eyes glowing in the dark, the scent of potpourri, a guacamaya feathered in green, red, and yellow, orange and hot pink hibiscus that swoon like drunken butterflies, sensuous as silk, carefree as cotton, lyrical as La Vida de Alcalá. That's what I would be if my name were Xochitl. Como una flor, for Selena. I heard you sing at the Jalapeño Festival in Laredo. Your hair, black and shiny as a gracle's feathers, fluttered in the dusty breeze. Your lips, red like a coyol flower, seemed to hymn to life. A patina of sweat made your piel canela glow while you swayed to the Tejano music. Your voice surged higher and higher like a dove and became one with the universe. I felt the young lover's frustration when you sang Amor Prohibido and your heart went bidi bidi bom bom. Chicanos stomped their cowboy boots to the polka beat as they whirled their partners round the floor, skirts ablaze of color in the air. The music stopped, the lights dimmed, then died. People filed by your black coffin. You lay como una flor cut before its time, surrounded by thousands of white roses. Fans gathered at the edge of the Rio Grande set the night aglow with hundreds of candles. Flames danced in the Rio Grande filled breeze, and Ave Marias floated in the air like the scent of roses. Aztec princesses dancing in Tenochtitlan to the rhythm of the tambor, the caracol. Virgins sacrificed in the cenote to appease the gods, came to welcome you, Selena, when you crossed the bridge towards the light. The martyrs of Juarez fall in silence like the autumn leaves, stain the desert crimson with their blood. Scattered by the wind, their dusty remains whirl and swirl until they cover everything. It gets in our eyes, our hair, our pores. We drink it in the water. It mixes with our blood. They cover the tombs of hundreds of women. They cover the nopales who observe in silence. They cover those who cross themselves and light a candle. They cover the police who look the other way. They cover the rich untouched by the massacre. They cover the maquiladores, leeches who bleed their employees. They cover the vultures lying in wait. They cover Juarez, its lampposts painted with black crosses. They cover Chihuahua, whose women are as disposable as used tampons. They cover Los Pinos behind its high walls. They cover a world that still spins on its axis. We bear them on our skin. We bear them in our blood, the martyrs of Juarez. Planta carnívora. The village women gather at the fountain to fill their cántaros with water and their ears with chisme. Comadre, did you hear Cipriana left Delfina and her children for that piruca, la Magdalena? Pues sí, comadre. Another caught in her web. Ni que estuviera tan buena. What does she have that we don't? Pues sepa Dios. A lo mejor it's the way she sways her caderas, like Tongolele when she danced at the Teatro Blanquita en el DF. Maybe she gives them toloache, made from that hierba that drives men locos for the woman who gives it to them. They say that when a man looks into her eyes, they see la Virgen y el Diablo reflected there. With lips as red as a cactus tuna, the come hombres are beautiful, intelligent, and dangerous, como una planta carnívora. They swallow a man, and when they tire of him, they spit out his soul, shriveled as the butt of a smoked habanero. I wish I had been a come hombre. It would have saved me a lot of grief. Sifting through the ashes. Sometimes it seems like someone else's dream, blurry as an old black and white snapshot taken in a rush to go on to more important things, like feeling your arms around me when they were the cord that bound the stars to my skin, when your lips tasted like plump, bittersweet grapes fermented by your passion, when in the dark recess of the Plaza Theater, your touch on my arm sent shockwaves through my body, when the anguish of your absence was sharper than the pain from the scorpion that stung me during my 16th summer. When the leaves turned to ochre and crimson, the romance didn't end. It was nourished by the waters of the Rio Grande, shaken by the tropical storms of Veracruz, set aflame by the evening sun, until consumed in a song of death, ashes scattered on the banks of the Papaloapan. El baúl de los recuerdos. Rechina el viejo baúl al alzar su tapa alfombrada, abombada, con un quejido lastimoso, como si no quisiera revelar sus secretos, tanto tiempo guardados. Me atrae su olor a viejo, a flores marchitas, al siglo pasado. Ojeo el diario de mis angustias adolescentes, el álbum de fotos de mi padre cuando de marinero recorrió los 7 mares en el USS Memphis. Acaricio la suave tela de terciopelo blanco del vestido de novia de mi madre, amarillento por los años. Lo pongo a un lado con ternura. De entre sus pliegues resbala algo. Con cuidado desato el listón de seda rosa que aprisiona 2 hojas de papel tan frágil que temo se deshaga al tocarlo, de un color cremoso como los jazmines de mi jardín cuando empiezan a secarse. En letras garigoleadas, entretejidas con dibujos de hojas en tinta color miel, para impresionar el corazón de su amada. Amable señorita, palabras respetuosas, hablan de un amor apasionado, donde dices amarla hasta la tumba y más allá. Me emocionan sus palabras, como emocionaron a mi abuela. La segunda carta dice: amable Ramoncita, quiero saber si puedo platicar con usted en la Alameda. Ella aceptó la cita pretendida y con el tiempo unieron sus vidas, pasaron los años y murieron los enamorados. Y mis manos palpan el recuerdo de un gran amor. Te recuerdo alto y delgado, tu cabello teñido por las nieves del tiempo, tu tez como las hojas secas del otoño, el azul de tus ojos opacado por las nubes tras tus espejuelos. Estas cartas te reflejan en el espejo del tiempo, fuerte como el roble donde grabaste tus iniciales y las de ella dentro de un corazón. Tu cabello oscuro como la tierra mojada, tu semblante una hoja en blanco, donde aún no se ha escrito. Tus ojos de poeta, desafiantes como retando a la vida. Te veo sentado ante un viejo escritorio, una pluma en tu mano, volcando los sentimientos de tu apasionado corazón que le enviabas a tu amada, Ramoncita, en estas cartas que hoy he encontrado en este baúl que guarda tantos recuerdos. Genesis. Let there be light, and there was light. Las Vegas glitters in the sand as a piece of shattered crystal carved out of the desert like the ice sculptures on buffet tables at the Hotel Mirage. Sodom and Gomorrah rise again, where gamblers' eyes hang in their sockets, whites lined by tiny red veins, where day blends into night like makeup on a showgirl's skin, where Barbie-like girls in bustiers and fishnet hose teeter on 6-inch heels as they serve hurricanes and margaritas to white-haired ladies with hairdos stiff as frosting on a day-old cake, who cackle when the one-armed bandit showers silver dollars in their lap, where glassy-eyed guys get more turned on by the roulette spin of the wheel than by girls around them, where men sit around the blackjack table, veins on temples throbbing, sweat beating their wooden faces, each on his own quest, where nickels, dimes, quarters, silver dollars ping and clink on row upon row in block after block of slot machines, where long-legged showgirls high-kick to loud music, glitter in gold, flutter in feathers, bare silicone breasts, their eyes dead as the dream that brought them to Vegas, where the Roman Empire rules again in Caesar's palace, where sepia-colored slaves and sexy centurions greet tourists at the entrance, where the goddess Isis, the Sphinx, the seduction of ancient Egypt, reign at the Luxor as Cleopatra, Tutankhamen, Nefertiti once reigned over Egypt, where at the Venetian, you glide in a gondola under a false blue sky on a canal lined with famous boutiques, where a well-dressed man or woman stands out like an orchid in the desert, where a replica of the Eiffel Tower dominates the strip at the Paris Las Vegas as you stroll by the Arch of Triumph, the Opera House, and the Louvre, where throughout the years, thousands of electric bulbs on marquees have spelled Julio Iglesias, Vicky Carr, Tom Jones, Frank Sinatra, Elvis Presley, and Vicente Fernandez, where plastic is turned into dollars as easily as Lot's wife turned into salt. I can almost see Moses, white beard dancing in the desert air, raging against these modern Philistines of Vegas, the whore of Babylon, created out of nothing, ephemeral as a mirage in the desert, for those who, like the wise men, follow a bright star that beckons on a quest with no alpha and no omega. Soy como soy y qué. Soy flor injertada que no pegó. Soy mexicana sin serlo. Soy americana sin sentirlo. La música de mi pueblo, la que me llena, los guapangos, las rancheras, el himno nacional mexicano, hace que se me enchine el cuero, que se me haga un nudo en la garganta, que bailen mis pies al compás, pero siento como quien se pone sombrero ajeno. Mexicanos me miran como diciendo, tú no eres mexicano. El himno nacional de Estados Unidos también hace que se me enchine el cuero, que se me haga un nudo en la garganta. Los gringos me miran como diciendo, tú no eres americana. Se me arruga el alma. En mí no caben dos patrias, como no cabrían dos amores. Desgraciadamente, no me siento ni de aquí ni de allá. Ni suficientemente mexicana, ni suficientemente americana. Tendré que decir, soy de la frontera, de Laredo, de un mundo extraño, ni mexicano ni americano, donde al caer la tarde, el olor a fajitas asadas a mezquite hace que se le haga uno agua a la boca. Donde en el cumpleaños lo mismo cantamos el Happy Birthday que las mañanitas. Donde festejamos en grande el nacimiento de George Washington, quién sabe por qué. Donde a los foráneos les entra culture shock cuando pisan Laredo. Donde en muchos lugares la bandera verde, blanco y colorada vuela orgullosamente al lado de la red, white and blue. Soy como el Río Grande, una vez parte de México, desplazada. Soy como un títere jalado por los hilos de dos culturas que chocan entre sí. Soy la mestiza, la pocha, la Tex-Mex, la Mexican American, la hyphenated, la que sufra por no tener identidad propia y lucha por encontrarla, la que ya no quiere cerrar los ojos a una realidad que golpea, que hiere, la que no quiere andarse con tiento, la que en Veracruz defendía a Estados Unidos con uñas y dientes, la que en Laredo defiende a México con uñas y dientes. Soy la contradicción andando. En fin, como Laredo, soy como soy y qué. Gracias.